Okay, thank you very much. I'll have an opening comment and then I will be looking for your questions. So today our big focus is what Canadians have been struggling with for a while now is the cost of groceries. And we have summoned the CEOs of the large corporate grocery chains and we are going to put tough questions to them. This has been one of the biggest responses we've received from the public when we asked them to give us their questions. Over 2,000 people filled out pretty lengthy form and gave us stories around what they're going through, their struggles, their challenges, and questions for Mr. Weston. So we'll be challenging Mr. Weston. How can he, at a time when Canadians are struggling with their groceries, parents are wondering if they can afford the food that their kids need, they go into a grocery store, pick up items, look at the price and put it back on the shelf. At a time when Canadians are going through that, these CEOs are making the record bonuses and highest profits they've ever made. So we want to ask the CEOs, how can they justify that? How can they defend that? When Canadians are hurting, they're making these huge profits. So we'll put those questions to the CEOs today, and we'll get answers for Canadians. And we'll challenge the corporate greed of these corporations and say that we need to do something about it. Donc aujourd'hui, on va poser des questions aux PDG des grandes entreprises d'épicerie. C'était un des moments sur les médias sociaux, un des plus engageant pour nos données. Plusieurs personnes ont dit qu'on a des questions pour ces PDG, on a des questions comment ils peuvent gagner des profits records quand on a de la misère à acheter les épiceries. Donc on va poser des questions, on va rendre compte de ces PDG et dire que c'est injuste qu'ils gagnent des profits massifs, des profits records quand les gens ne peuvent pas aborder les épiceries pour leurs enfants. Donc, on va poser des questions cet après-midi.
Leur défense, c'est que les profits viennent surtout de ce qui n'est pas alimentaire, c'est-à-dire, par exemple, des médicaments, d'autres articles, etc. Qu'est-ce que vous répondez à ça? Ils disent que les profits ne viennent pas nécessairement de l'alimentation.
Premièrement, on n'a pas vu cette preuve, donc montrez-la. Deuxièmement, ça ne fait rien. Ça ne change pas le fait qu'ils gagnent des profits records quand les gens ont de la misère à acheter les épiceries. Comment ils peuvent défendre ça? Comment ils peuvent défendre les bonus qu'ils reçoivent? Les bonus records aussi. Quand les gens ont les difficultés à faire quelque chose d'essentiel et fondamental comme nourrissent leur famille. Et ils gagnent des profits comme ça. Donc, je vais poser cette question. Comment ils peuvent défendre cette position? Comment ils peuvent justifier tout ça?
Bill C-11, even if some of the Senate's amendments are rejected?
Yeah, we've long said that this Bill C-11 is about making sure that web giants pay their fair share. Web giants don't contribute to Canadian culture, don't pay into a fund to support local Canadian artists, musicians, movies, films, culture in general, and we think that's unfair. Why is it that if you're a web giant, you get away with not contributing, but the local telecommunication companies, they do? That's unfair, and we stand by our position that they should also be contributing their fair share.
Monsieur Singh, est-ce que M. Trudeau vous a consulté jusqu'à présent sur la nomination d'un rapporteur spécial sur la question de l'ingérence étrangère? Et à quel niveau de consultation vous vous attendez de sa part?
Ils ont avisé que c'est ce qu'il veut faire, un rapporteur spécial comme ça, mais ils n'ont pas consulté à ce moment avec qui va être la personne nommée. Donc, ce qu'on a dit, qu'on veut être partie de cette consultation. Mais au-delà de tout ça, ce qui est clair avec les nouvelles allégations qui soulèvent chaque jour, c'est qu'on a vraiment besoin d'une enquête publique. Parce que c'est chaque jour, on apprend des nouvelles choses. Chaque jour, il y a plus des allégations d'ingérence étrangère qui minent la confiance des Canadiens dans notre système de démocratie. Et c'est clair que de plus en plus, il semble que le Premier ministre a quelque chose à cacher. Donc, les gens demandent pourquoi c'est cachette. Et on a besoin d'une enquête publique pour répondre à toutes les questions des Canadiens.
Can I ask you about... Sorry. Okay, we're being for late. Can I ask you about my colleagues reporting on Global News?
Oh, yes.
what do you make of it? Like, do you have any doubt that the Prime Minister did know that the Chinese government was funneling money to candidates in 2019?
Yeah, they're getting to the point where there's more and more evidence coming forward, more and more information every day that has made it really clear that the government steps, which I've called baby steps, are simply insufficient. At this point, given the recent information that's come forward, that at least 2 times the Prime Minister was advised that Chinese government officials were transferring money to Canadian political candidates. That is serious. That is a problem. And the questions that Canadians are asking is, well, when did the Prime Minister know this? What did he know, and what did he do about it? And none of that's being answered by the announcement of a special rapporteur or the committee work that has been suggested. And that's why we're saying we need a process that's independent and that's transparent, and that's why a public inquiry seems to be right now the only option forward. We're open to any step that gives us that transparency and that public element, but really, given all the information coming forward, it's become really clear the Canadians' trust and confidence in our electoral system is being eroded, and that is a responsibility of the government. That's a responsibility specifically of the Prime Minister, and he has got to answer those questions.
We know the Conservatives had concerns about,
I'll come to you after.
Sorry, about interference in some of their ridings in the 2021 election. Since you've been NDP leader, had there been concerns in your party about interference from any foreign state in local campaigns or in riding level campaigns at all during the general elections?
We've not had any concerns raised or any evidence raised about any sort of interference in our process. We do a regular review of our nomination process anyways, and we'll continue to conduct that normal review, but we've not received any evidence of any sort of interference in our nomination process.
Be clear on the election interference file, just to make sure you've got your position right. So public inquiry, definitely best way to go in your view, but you would be open to some other means as long as they were an open, transparent process?
Yeah, we were looking for an open process, a public and open, transparent process, as well as something that's independent. And so the committees can be, that's open and transparent, but they don't have the independence. So we want something independent with that transparency. And so far, we are not seeing that. The announcement of the Prime Minister may or may not achieve that, but it so far hasn't. We don't even have a special rapporteur that's been named, so those questions remain. And given the fact that the story just continues to evolve, more and more information is coming forward, and the reporting that Global did, more and more evidence that there's something going on here that's deeply problematic, that cries out for the Prime Minister responding to the questions that keep on being put forward, which is what did he know, when did he know it, and what did he do about it? Those questions have not been answered, and his announcement has not responded to those questions that Canadians have.
Can I take you back to grocery prices
Yeah.
for a moment? These are private businesses.
It's a great way to pull me in, because I'm going to say it.
Yeah, these are private businesses that operate, these grocery store chains across the country. Do you think the government has to further regulate into these businesses to control? Does there have to be price control?
Well, there's got to be something to respond to what's going on. So we've got really an unprecedented time of inflation. It's not like we're seeing a bit of a blip or a little bit of an increase. What we're experiencing right now is some of the highest rates of inflation that we've seen in a generation. And at the same time, Canadians are telling us they are struggling. They are having a hard time buying groceries. At the exact same time, these grocery stores aren't just posting normal profits, high profits, they're posting record profits. They've never done better. Their CEOs are receiving massive bonuses. So at a time when they're making massive profits and Canadians are struggling to eat food, there is something wrong with that picture.
So what needs to be done, though? You're going to go to committee again, and Winston's going to be there, blah, blah. You're saying something needs to be done. This has been something we've been talking about for months now. What are some thoughts that you're going to present forward?
So there's a general area of things. One is, we put it on the CEOs to justify why they're doing this, and if they can respond to this or if they can do something to help people out. I don't really have a lot of trust that they're going to respond. Their job is to make profits. They're going to continue to do that. And so really it comes down to government. The role of government is to protect people. And there's 2 specific things that government can do. One is something that other countries around the world have done, which is put in place an excess profit tax to disincentivize the gouging of Canadians, to use that revenue to invest back into people. This is something that United Kingdom, Spain, Germany, the European Union have all put in place some form of excess profit tax, tackling those sectors that are making record profits as a way of acknowledging that that is a concrete thing that governments can do. The second piece, which I think is also, and equally very important, is strengthening our competition laws. Right now in Canada, there's really just 3 large corporate grocery chains that own all the subsidiary grocery stores. And as a result, we're experiencing some massive prices and massive price increases. And we know that in Canada in 2018, the Competition Bureau found clear signs of collusion in setting bread prices, so bread price fixing. So given that that's happened, given that we're experiencing such high prices, we need to strengthen our competition laws. We need to put in a windfall tax, disincentivize these corporations from ripping off Canadians. Government has to act to protect people, and I'm hoping that in committee and I can illustrate how that corporate greed is driving up the price of food, how they're not going to do anything unless we force them to.
When is your next meeting with Trudeau, and are you going to bring up foreign interference?
I have brought up foreign interference in our last meeting, and our last meeting was, I can give you the exact date from our team, but it was within the past week. And we'll raise it again. It is something very serious to Canadians, the fact that foreign interference is eroding public trust. I want Canadians to trust the electoral system. So far, it seems that the allegations are touching on nomination meetings. That is serious, and we don't want this to go even further to impact our actual outcomes. And right now, that's not the suggestion. It's impacting our nomination process, but that's a serious concern as it is. And right now, the Prime Minister seems like he's hiding something, and he could just answer those questions by launching a public inquiry. It's independent, it's public, it would respond to the concerns that Canadians have, and it would no longer be an ongoing story. I don't understand why the Prime Minister doesn't just launch the public inquiry and get to the bottom of this.
Est-ce que vous avez l'impression que M. Trudeau, avec son annonce, il a simplement voulu gagner du temps? Vous avez parlé en anglais de baby steps. Est-ce que vous avez l'impression que c'est ça, sa stratégie, de simplement gagner du temps?
Oui, il me semble exactement qu'il essaie de pelotonner l'enjeu, de lancer l'enjeu dans le futur au lieu de répondre aujourd'hui. Et je pense que c'est la mauvaise chose à faire. Avec une question comme ça qui touche notre démocratie, la confiance dans notre système électoral, le Premier ministre a la responsabilité de répondre aux questions, de donner la confiance aux gens et sans avoir une enquête publique ou un processus public, transparent et indépendant, ces questions vont continuer et semble qu'il y a des cachettes et les Canadiens doivent avoir les réponses.
À quel moment vous allez en faire une condition pour continuer à soutenir les libéraux dans l'entente que vous avez avec eux? À quel moment ça va devenir une condition sine qua non de déclencher une enquête publique?
Ce n'est pas une décision qu'on va prendre aujourd'hui, mais on va continuer de mettre la pression pour avoir une enquête publique. C'est important et c'est exactement ce qu'on va demander.
What do you think about his attitude? You know, we saw last week in Winnipeg that he had kind of dismissed a reporter's question on foreign interference. He seems to be avoiding questions this week. What do you think about his attitude generally when dealing with this issue and facing pressure?
Yeah, the Prime Minister is signaling that he's not taking this seriously and is being dismissive. And in his actions also is more and more seeming like there's something to hide. All of which is not helping. It's not helping Canadians have confidence in our democracy, in our electoral system, and it's why it really cries out for a public inquiry. Let's set those questions to rest. Let's have answers. Let's figure out what happened and what we can do to protect our democracy in the future.
You said that you think that the Prime Minister is hiding something, but do you think he's working for China as the Leader of the Opposition suggested?
Oh, not at all. That's an outlandish and an extreme comment to make. It really shows how the leader of the Conservative Party has no interest in really finding the truth. He just wants to make outlandish and hyperbolic statements. I'm very concerned about our democracy. I'm concerned about getting to the truth. And it is clear that the Prime Minister is being dismissive or not taking this seriously. And I think that's important. That's a measured and realistic approach to this. And saying that the Prime Minister needs to take this seriously and needs to launch a public inquiry shows a maturity and a response to a serious problem, unlike the Conservatives who are just trying to seek headlines, make a lot of noise, but aren't actually trying to protect our democracy, aren't trying to ask serious questions, or try to get to serious solutions. Thank you. Merci.